Let's run everybody through a quick little breathwork session.
1, 2, 3. Make a noise. Loud. How's your face feel?
Numb.
Ocean Eagle is the founder of Activation Breathwork, a transformative practice that empowers individuals through the art of conscious breathing.
With a deep passion for healing and personal growth, Ocean guides others on their journey to self-discovery and emotional release, fostering connection and inner peace.
Find more time to be quieter, because in the nothingness of the unknown stillness within is when your creator will talk to you.
What have you seen alcohol do to people?
I've seen it do the worst things to the best people. When you feel fear, when you feel anxiety, and you feel stress, take yourself out of whatever situation that is. Go sit by a tree, go sit by water, go sit in nature and let nature heal you.
That's amazing. Powerful. How powerful is breathwork?
To me, I've watched it heal people's erectile dysfunction, high blood pressure medicine being thrown away, plantar fasciitis going away in one breathwork journey. Everything is about blood flow. Everything's about expanding our blood vessels.
What's a dead letter?
The dead letter is when you...
Welcome to another episode of A Healthy Point of View podcast. I'm your host, Sam Tejada, and today we have a special guest who flew in from out of town, long travels to say the least. And this guy here, he really has you dive deep into your inner self. He helps you fix and recognize certain traumas that you've had, even from all the way from a childhood type of trauma. He focuses on breath work. We're going to talk about the importance of breath work and what that does for your body, for your inner self. Today we have Ocean Eagle. How are you, brother?
I'm good, man. Thanks for having me.
No, I'm happy to have you here, man.
Well, I'm honored. I've followed your work, and it's like super aligned with what you do, and I'm super grateful.
Absolutely, and likewise. I've been watching your content and seeing some of the work that you've done on a lot of people, right? You're doing these retreats,
right?
And I want to talk about it. I want to bring this to the masses. I want them to understand the power behind what you're doing.
Yeah.
So, all right. So you're an alchemist, right?
Well, people try to put labels on you all the time. It's like they say you're a shaman or you're a healer, and it's like, I guess if there's an I am that goes with me, it's I work through the 7 steps of alchemy.
Okay.
It's sort of like calcination, separation, dissolution, dissolving, all the way back to the final step of coagulation, where we bring it all back together as a new perfected spirit and body. So it's about taking them apart, cleaning them up, and then bringing them back together as a whole being. And it's an endless process that we're always involved in.
So let's talk about your story. How did you even get here? Because, most people, they have a story, their own healing process, right? Before you could even heal anyone else, there had to be something that led you to where you're at today, to now, you're helping tons of people.
Yeah.
So how did you get here?
Somebody like me, my pain is now my biggest asset. My trauma from childhood, I learned how to alchemize that into my superpower, because I had a childhood, and we don't need to go into the details. I've talked about them on other podcasts, but, terrible childhood. I witnessed things as a 5, 7, 10, 11, 12, 15-year-old.
Where did you grow up?
I grew up in the Bay Area of California through 3rd grade, and then Mom needed to kind of take us away from Dad, and kind of, so we jumped over to West Texas. So I went from San Jose, California, to a town of 1,300 people.
That's a big shift.
Roscoe, Texas.
Okay.
The Roscoe Plowboys. So in 4th grade, I went to Roscoe.
Okay.
And me and my brother were there. Didn't like us little short-wearing, van-wearing Californians,
The surfer guys.
out in West Texas. So you could imagine it was a little rough. But I grew up mostly from there on in West Texas.
Okay.
Jumping around a lot. I went to 11 schools in 2 different states.
Oh, wow.
Mom was an alcoholic. Dad was an alcoholic. Mom married another alcoholic, and at one point, I think for about 4 years, when she was married to Earl, we owned a bar called Uncle Funky's in West Texas. And so I learned, about drinking. I learned how to numb my feelings and numb my pain. And
that's something that we see a lot of, right? Is people tend to numb themselves with the spirits.
Right.
So I'm not. I'll have a glass of wine here and there, but if I had to choose, or if I had to make a choice not to ever drink, I just won't.
But we do have a choice. Even having a choice, we have a choice whether
Right.
we want to pick it up or not pick it up.
So like I'm the kind of guy, like if I go on a cruise, I'm on a vacation. I'd rather have the pina colada without the alcohol versus with the alcohol because number one, it tastes a heck of a lot better without the alcohol,
Yeah.
and I feel a lot better without it. So, with your experience, what have you seen alcohol do to people?
I've seen it do the worst things to the best people, because people aren't bad, but when we drink alcohol and put substances in our bodies, we make really bad choices. And by the time I was 25, I had totaled 4 cars, and I had 3 DUIs, and I was on a devastating path. And so for me, 5 years later, somehow the last 5 years of my drinking career, I just didn't die. And but at age 30, and I'm 55 now, at age 30, I got sober. And I got sober in the Santa Monica and Venice area of California. And I knew the night I looked in the mirror at 4 a.m. that I hated who I saw. I just hated the man in the mirror. Michael Jackson's song, you want to make the world a better place, take a look at yourself and make a change.
Wow.
So I needed to make a change. And the man I saw in the mirror at 4 a.m. was my father. I had become the man that I said I would never become, because he was not my hero.
How did you feel when you saw that?
It was the lowest point emotionally of my life. I was bankrupt. I had nothing. I had either go on to the end and die, or go to 630 AA meetings my first year and pour Alcoholics Anonymous into my veins and get sober. And that's what I think the difference is between people that come in and out of sobriety, is that they've got an excuse still that they haven't gotten rid of yet. There's a reason that they'll still go out and drink and use over. So you got to want it as bad as food and water. So I knew at that moment at 4 a.m. that I told myself in the mirror that I would never pick up a drink again. And I just celebrated 25 years of sobriety.
That's amazing, man. Yeah. Congrats, brother.
Yeah, thank you.
Keep it going.
Yeah, so for me, it's like everybody's got a pain threshold. And some people go their whole lives and they don't reach that threshold.
Do you feel like when you decided to make that shift, was it something that was just like almost like a switch just clicked?
I was up in the Bay Area helping my father recover from, and everything was around my dad. A lot of the moments in my life were around my dad. And I was up there helping him recover from a quadruple bypass surgery. My idea of helping him recover was to go take his car to the country and western bar and get drunk.
Oh.
So I went and got really drunk, and I came home at 3:30 in the morning, and my dad, with staples in his chest, was sitting there looking at me when I walked in the door. And he had this look of disgust in his face.
Oh,
and then
man.
it hit me. It's like, oh, that POS is disappointed in me. That's how far I had dropped. That's how low I'd gotten. That was my moment. That was the moment I went up in the mirror at 4 a.m. and I hated who I saw, and I realized who I'd become. And I wanted to change more than anything in life. So that's what I did.
So for listeners that are hearing this, if they're in that position, right, how you were, and they just are looking at themselves in the mirror and they hate who they see, what's the next step for them?
I wrote a book called The Gifts of Desperation, A Journey Back to Me. And you got to have that. You need to be as desperate as a drowning man grabbing a life preserver. And if you're not at that point, so I sponsored a lot of people, men and women.
What does that look like though? Like being desperate like a drowning man, right? Like,
or woman. Yeah.
Give me some details of what does that mean? You have no money, you have nowhere to live, you're homeless. Like what is it?
I'll give you an example. I was in an Alcoholics Anonymous meeting, and this guy comes up. I was a speaker at that meeting. The guy comes up to me and he just looks like road rash, and he comes up and he looks at me and he's like, "Hey, that was a really good talk. Thank you so much." And I was like, "So what's going on with you?" And he's like, "Well, I just picked up 2 DUIs in the last 2 weeks." I'm like, "Oh
wow."
So that's not good. And it's like, what else is going on? Well, about a year ago, I got out of prison. So what were you in prison for? When I was 17, I drove my car drunk and I killed my best friend in an accident. So I got put in jail for manslaughter for 7 years. So let me get this straight. You killed your best friend in a car accident while you were drunk driving, and you went to prison for 7 years. You got out, and you're drinking again, and you just picked up 2 more DUIs. Can I ask you something? And he said, yeah, what? I said, are you done yet? And he looked at me and said, I think I'm almost there. Everybody's bottom is different. So what a bottom looks like is different. It can be emotional bottom. Maybe a DUI gets you there. Maybe the wife leaving you or the husband leaving you, maybe that gets you there. Everybody is different, you know.
It's what's going to hit you internally to hit that switch.
Internally, you got to feel like you got nowhere else to go.
Right.
You just got to feel like you got nothing else left in the tank. And you're like, you got to have the willingness to go to any lengths at that point. And you got to find a power greater than yourself. Call it God, call it Allah, call it Buddha, call it whatever you want, you know. But you need to find a power greater than yourself, and you got to quit driving the bus. You got to get out of the driver's seat and go sit in the back, and you got to take some good, orderly direction, God, from some people that have what you want. For me, my guy was Jack Rosenbaum. Jack was a 68-year-old, short, red-headed Irish guy with a bad toupee that walked up to me at a meeting, and because he saw me coming around to meetings, and he said, you got a sponsor? And I said, no, I don't have a sponsor. He goes, well, you got one now. I said, I do. He said, yeah. I said, what do you want me to do? He goes, well, you got to do one thing. I'm like, what? Everything I tell you to do. I'm like, he goes, these aren't suggestions. So if you're not willing to do what I tell you to do, go find someone else.
And this is someone who's been through it themselves.
Yeah, all he did was, he had like 30 years of sobriety at that point. All he did was sponsor people. He had a little house in Venice he would rent rooms out to for people that really wanted sobriety. And but Jack was hard on me. I said, what do you want me to do? He said, go over there and start picking up cigarette butts. I'm like, okay.
Oh, wow.
What else do you want me to do? I said, I want you to stand at the door, and I want you to shake everybody's hands, and I want you to welcome them to Alcoholics Anonymous. And I want you to say, hi, I'm Marty. I'm an alcoholic. I was Marty back then. And then what else do you want me to do? I want you to sit in the front row. What else? I want you to suit up, show up, sit down, and shut the hell up because you got nothing anybody wants to hear until you got 90 days of sobriety. So what else you want me to do? Take the cotton out of your ears and stick it in your mouth for a while because all you talk about is you. I'm like, what else? Halfway through the meeting, I want you to go grab a coffee pot, and I want you to walk around the meeting, and I want you to fill up people's empty coffee cups as a way of being in service. So what else you want me to do? I want you to get a service position at every meeting so that you become a part of and not sitting on the rim so you can fall out.
And all of these things that he was making you do,
Yeah.
How do you feel that fed into it? Like, what was the purpose of it?
The purpose is to humble you.
Humble
It's to humble you, to get you to right size. I remember after I read my 4-step to him, which is your inventory, right, of your life and your resentments list and your fears list and your sexual inventory. And I thought I had some crazy story I was getting ready to tell this guy. For about 4 hours, I'd tell this story, and he fell asleep 3 times. And then at the end of it, he looked at me, he said, is that it? And I was like kind of hurt a little bit that he didn't think it was amazing. I said, yeah, that's it. And he goes, can I tell you something? I'm like, yeah, what? He goes, you're the most selfish, self-centered SOB I've ever met in my life. I'm like, really? He goes, yeah, you're an ass and no one likes you.
Wow.
I'm like, really? He goes, yeah, but we're going to change that. So how are we going to do that? We're going to take everything out of that list and we're going to find your part and we're going to get rid of everything else. So then we're going to go look at your character defects and your shortcomings on step 6 and 7, and we're going to fix those. And then we're going to have you go out and we're going to make amends to everybody you've harmed in your life so you don't have any reasons to drink again, so you don't have any shame anymore, so you're not walking around waiting for the shoe to drop that someone that you've hurt in your past is going to come back and haunt you.
So you actually physically addressed these people?
I did. Made a list.
Wow.
And some people you can make direct amends to, and some you have to make a living amends to. But you have to can't just go call someone.
That's got to be an amazing release, like relief.
It is,
off of your
but
chest.
you also let go of your expectations of how these people are going to receive you.
Right.
Because they may still be really hurt by what you did. So you just have to go make an honest, humble apology, and they may tell you to F off, I don't want to talk to you. And that's okay. You do your part.
You do your part.
You do your part.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, you said that you should have some kind of belief in a higher power.
Yeah.
Right? Let's talk about that. Because there's some people, especially in today's day and age, where it's just like, they don't believe in any of that. There's
Yeah.
no God, there's no higher power. And I truly believe that you should always have a belief in a higher power. Yeah, there is something greater than all of us that's out there.
Yeah. Even if it's just universal consciousness that we all belong to. It's
Right.
got to be something other than just this earth meat suit that we're in.
Right.
It's got to be bigger. There's got to be more to it. And I think only probably maybe 2, 3, 4% really find that. They really come out of this dense earthly existence and just start removing the veil enough to where they can really see real reality and not the fake reality that everybody chooses to live in. Because there's a much better world out there that's void of all of this stuff. But for me, I'll give you an idea. So I didn't believe in God when I got into Alcoholics Anonymous. I believed all the wars in the world were fought over religion, and it was about control and manipulation. And a big part of me still has that view in some ways on religion and the Bible and stuff. Not that I condemn anybody for their beliefs or what they believe in, but Jack on step 3 of Alcoholics Anonymous, turn your life and your will over to a power greater than yourself as you understand him. And I was like, I don't have one, Jack, and I'm stuck. So he walks me out to the beach, and he said, let's get on our knees. I'm like, all right. He goes, move that. I said, move what? He said, move the ocean. I said, I can't move the ocean. He said, that is a power greater than you. Well, why don't you come out here and get on your knees until you figure out what your idea is? And that got me through that step.
Wow.
So I would go out there.
I'm feeling that. That's actually, I like
I
that.
would go out there at 2, 3 in the morning, and I'd get on my knees by myself in the moonlight, and I would just, God help me. That was my simple prayer.
I
Just,
bet you could feel it.
God help me.
Especially being out there.
Yeah, just God help me. And it's evolved over 25 years into this relationship with a creative force of the universe that I connect with. Because I believe there's like a universal frequency matrix instead of this 3D matrix. There's a frequency and a vibration that belongs to me. And the more I step into that true vibrational frequency, that resonant frequency that's designed for me, then all of a sudden everything starts happening.
Well, that's bioquantum.
Yeah.
I mean, that's, people start going crazy sometimes hearing people talk about that, but, there's different frequencies and different vibrations.
Yeah.
So that's actually the future of medicine, by the way.
No, I'm going to build a hypogeum.
Yeah.
You ever see the hypogeum in Malta?
I have.
It's an underground stone structure that is acoustically perfect.
Oh, it has all the, I have seen it.
Acoustically
I've seen
perfect.
YouTube videos of it.
That's what I
Have you
wanna
been there?
build. No, I was supposed to go there this last trip, and I just got back from being over there.
Man, I'd love
but
to
I
go
got
to that.
sidetracked. I'll go. Let's go, man.
Yeah, for
we'll,
real.
Yeah, no, I'm serious. We'll go to Malta.
That's got to have so much like healing powers and
Yeah.
properties behind it, going there.
Yeah.
So that's so to get where you're at today though,
Uh-huh.
it wasn't just something where you just went out there and connected to the universe. Like I always tell people, we're students.
Yeah.
We're here to learn. So you had to have multiple coaches throughout the process. I know you travel a lot. You're traveling a lot now
Yeah.
and connecting with other people that are into this world that we live in, right?
Yeah.
The spiritual world. When it comes to things that we're talking about, frequency healers that are out there. What did that look like to get you to the point where now you're a teacher yourself?
Well, I'm a guide. I like to say I guide people inward to where they become the teacher.
Okay.
Yeah, I guide people to a deep place inside where they're the teacher and the student, and they're actually teaching themselves. They think I'm doing it, but they're actually just assigning the energy to me. It's no different. I'm no different than someone's Buddha statue on their altar that they get on their knees and they pray and meditate to. Some kid in Indonesia made that statue for 25 cents a day. Yeah, you go and meditate and pray to that. So it's an energy assignment.
Right.
So when I did 15 years of on and off psychotherapy with a psychologist to try to deal with my wounding from my childhood and stuff that would come back, and my problem that I have with that type of therapy, you don't heal anything. It's just a revolving door when life happens with your children, your wife, your relationship, your money. Then you're back on your psychologist's couch, dealing with your triggers when you should be healing your triggers. You should be healing that energy on a cellular vibrational frequency level. Because on a cellular physiological DNA level, we know who we are. Mm-hmm. But we got to clear the path to connect with that. So we have to do that kind of deep inner work to where we're ready. But when I did the work with the psychologist, I just wasn't healing anything. I kept going back. We'd box it up and put it back on a shelf. So I started working with a woman named Nicole Johnson and in Sacramento, and another woman named Kadia Matara. And I didn't realize what was happening. Both of them were brought to me by ex-girlfriends. Girlfriends at the time. Girlfriends went away. This was the gift I was given, was Nicole and Kadia.
Not a bad gift.
Not a bad gift. So I was working with them for like 3.5, 4 years, and I started being taught by Nicole about soul retrieval. She was a shaman. They didn't tell me she was a shaman. She was working on me. So she had me do a lot of writing. She had me write dead letters to my ex-wife, write a dead letter to my father.
What's a dead letter?
A dead letter is when you write down everything that's bottled up inside of you that you're not ever going to say to that person to their face. And so I wrote a 10-page dead letter to my ex-wife because I was a martyr. I was hanging on a cross because of my childhood. I took the blame for everything. But there was 2 people in that marriage, that 14-year marriage. So I had to stop trying to save her, right, in my therapy sessions, in my life coach sessions. And Nicole actually got mad at me. When are you going to, because she knew the story. And she knew what the other woman, my then wife's part was. But I would never go after her and get angry. So this is where you get it all out. And I wrote down 10 pages of the nastiest stuff you'd never say to anybody. I used the C word.
And that's just more of you kind of getting it out. Obviously, no one's going to read that.
But what happened halfway through that, I realized, I had an OMG moment and halfway writing that dead letter that helped me understand why I fell out of love with her. It was a moment where my dad had died. And not my hero. She didn't care for him. But she wouldn't let all of my children come to his funeral. My older boys I married her when they were 4 and 6. And then I had 2 children with her. So we were all a family. They were my children's half-brothers, and I raised them for 14 years on and off. But she wouldn't let them come to my dad's funeral, and I didn't understand. I said, we're a family. We've been sealed in the Mormon temple. I was Mormon at the time. That's a whole other journey. And
you're a Mormon.
I did. I converted to the
That's
Mormon
very
church at
interesting.
one point.
I was raised Catholic.
Yeah.
But I come from a family where my grandmother and my aunt were Jehovah's Witnesses, and then another part of my family are Mormons.
Yeah.
So just imagine those family gatherings. Like it's this person can do this person can't do that. So, but we all got along tremendously.
Yeah.
So.
Well, that's the family of origin work. That's the religious work, the family of origin work, the cultural wounding work that people need to do to find their truth. Because what they have is they have a big old bottled up mess inside them that's not really their truth. It's what they've been told. It's what they've been programmed with.
Right.
And when I get people to start working on that stuff, and I'll go back to Nicole and Kadia in a minute, but when I get people to start working on that stuff, they say, one of the first words is, that's so difficult to break free from that. And we have to break words down. It's called spelling for a reason, because it being difficult means you're afraid of defying your cult, to defy the cult. And that is the inner cult inside you. So the culture, if you flip culture, that's your cult, is what culture is.
Interesting.
So that's the inner cult inside you, which is the subconscious belief system that your father beat into you, your mother, your school system, your religious leaders, your government, whatever, So to defy that is really uncomfortable, because now what's going to start happening is the things in my life are going to start getting better, and that's not going to feel comfortable, because that's not what my childhood was. Right. So people get hung up and stuck on the familiar. And when they step out, that's when the self-sabotage happens.
Right.
It's like, that just feels too damn good. I'm not worthy of that. My shame from childhood, my shame from who I was, doesn't feel like I deserve that, when we should all expect and that we deserve the best in life. Because my creator told me 2 things. I want you to be happy, and I want you to derive that happiness through service to humanity. That's it.
I love that.
If you do that, I'll take care of you. That's what the voice said. And I said, okay, I got this. So going back to Nicole and Kadia, Kadia was doing cellular energy clearing on me. She would literally hold my head and make this oh noise in my brain behind me while I'm laying there flat, face up. And when her voice would crack, to her that would be a crack, a mass in my brain that needed to be cleared. So she would yell loud, pow, pow, into my brain to kind of break those up. And then she would do it until her voice was clear. And then she came around and did it in my heart. And then I would sit there after she would do this process, and I would just That's when I started learning to take these really slow breaths. And then I took my first journeys I've ever taken in my mind through my third eye. You know, Archangel Michael showed up, and bright white lights that were drawing me in would show up. But
That's when like the whole breathwork experience with you began.
that's not even when the breathwork thing happened for me. Later on, Nicole, after doing some work on soul retrieval and having me read a book by Sandra Ingerman called Soul Retrieval, and I started learning about drums and rattles and guiding people into the spirit world. And because if you think about it, what I saw at 5 years old and 7 years old and 10 and 11 and 12 and 15, there's a piece of me that had to detach and go away. You can't handle that kind of trauma.
Right.
As a child, especially, it'll kill you. As adults, we can have coping mechanisms with drugs and alcohol and other things, but as a child,
Those things stick with you.
It'll stay with you. It hardwires you. You know, they know that if you can get a kid between 0 and 7, you got them.
Right.
That's that hardwiring state. You know, they've done research. You know, I say they. You know, I normally only like to speak from my own wisdom through my own experience, but I believe that if you can hardwire a kid, you know, by age 7, that's why they have these curriculums.
Yeah, I mean, they really don't know any different.
They don't.
You know, around those age.
So then they lower their expectations of what they're allowed to receive in life, and then we have this other thing that we do in elementary school. And I've got 4 kids. They're all 19, 21, 27, and 29 now. But I volunteered in all the elementary school classes and did all that stuff that my parents never did for me. But I always hated when they would do the school assemblies and bring 7 kids up on the stage and showcase them in front of all the others. Because one could read more books, or one got better grades, or one, I hated the attendance award. That's the kid that came to school sick every day and got everybody sick. You know, it just seemed like
I never thought about that.
It was like, it's like, but it's this false sense of pride for these 7, but it would told the other 600 out there, it was like, wow, those are the smart ones.
Right.
I'm not as good as them or as smart as them. So I wish we could get away with that whole thing, honestly. But the system is set up to wire us from a young age. So this stuff that I saw, and when I learned about soul retrieval, it made total sense. It's like, I didn't really learn how to play again until I was 50 years old, 5.5 years ago, when I had my real spiritual awakening. That's when I really started making choices and decisions to allow my inner child to come back home.
When was
play.
that spiritual awakening? Like, how did you feel it?
So after working with Nicole and Kadia, and Nicole discloses that she was a shaman, I started researching on shamanism. And I'd read a bunch of books. I wasn't a reader, but I'd read a bunch of books in about 12 months. Stuff like The Alchemist from Paulo Coelho, and Pilgrimage, and Warriors of Light, and Valkyries, and a bunch of other books by Paulo. And then I read really 2 books that were huge for me were Michael Singer's The Untethered Soul, and the next follow-up book, The Surrender Experiment. Those were really important books for me. And I've referred that book out 100 times to people.
Nice.
But it talks about the I ams, and it drills down into where I am just a being of light, embodying this, physical avatar to further the journey of my soul, to evolve, basically.
Right.
So when I realized that, and that made sense for me, I started researching shamans. And then I saw that like a month and a half later, the gathering of the shamans was happening in Sedona, Arizona, with Don Miguel Ruiz, who wrote the 4 agreements and the 5th agreement, the 5 levels of attachment. So I went to that as a volunteer, because that's all they had left were volunteer spots. So I got to spend time with these people, and I met a woman named Linda Starwolf, who I'm not connected with anymore just because of some misalignments in life and how she's chosen to do things. But I was scheduled to work her shamanic breathwork journey. And so I'm laying mats out for 85 people. And I'm like, I'd never heard of breathwork. Never heard of it. I've worked with Nicole and Kadia, and stuff, and doing work with them. And I had done 15 years. I wasn't in the spiritual side of life. I just started to dive into meditating a little bit.
Right.
So I was just going to watch these 85 people and see what was going to happen. And they gave me a spot on the front wall and said, no, you're going to breathe and you're going to be up here. I'm like, fine. And I'm an athlete. I went to school on a baseball scholarship. So somebody gives me a challenge, I'm going to go after it. So I lay down, I closed my eyes, and I started breathing like a beast. And during that breathwork journey, I had a massive spiritual awakening, biblical. Wow. I had, Star Wolf came over and started moving energy on my sacral area. And when she did that, I was out of body. I was out in the cosmos. I was flying around out in the stars and the planets. And I was like, oh my God, this is real. And then I felt this presence next to me. And there's these two luminous beings next to me. And they point to Orion. And they said, you're from there. I said, you're from there. You're an ancient wisdom master. You're not from Earth. We sent you here to help this world evolve during this time of great transformation and great transformation.
Amazing.
We gave you a gift, and we're going to activate that now. And we're going to tell you what your mission is. I'm like, what? You know, I was married to a doctor at the time, a hospitalist pediatrician who was an alcoholic. I got blindsided, didn't see her alcoholism before we got married. And so I was white knuckling a relationship and, you know, living the 3D TikTok life, you know, had the big house and all this stuff. And these beings just tell me that my job and my mission is to help balance the masculine and feminine energy on the planet.
Is that when you were given your spiritual name or it came to light?
Right after that breathwork journey ended. And other stuff happened too. I mean, Earth came to me and I turned into an eagle and I flew over all humanity and I had a moment of oneness. I'm the plants, I'm the birds, I'm the rocks, I'm the streams, I'm creeks, streams, I'm mountains, I'm oceans, I'm everything and everything's me. I'm black, white, Asian, Hispanic, Indian, I'm male, female. I said, oh my God, I'm everything. And right after that, she moved her energy on my heart and my heart turned into this massive gold heart and just exploded. And gold dust just went over all of humanity. And I knew at that moment I loved everybody. I'm still only going to hang out probably with 5% because, you know, love and likes different. But what happened
humanity
was
has to understand you.
Yeah, but
know?
after that, Starwell came up to me as I'm rolling up mats and cleaning up. She said, hey, she has this Kentucky accent. She goes, hey, darling, my grandmother Twyla Nitch of the Seneca Wolf Nation had the gift of spirit names that would come to her. She gave thousands of people their spirit names and even the Dalai Lama his spirit name. When she died, that gift came to me, and it doesn't happen very often, but I had a name come for you, and would you like to receive it? And I was like, well, I didn't know what a spirit name was. I'm like, yeah, sure. And when she said Ocean Eagle, my whole body lit up. She didn't know that the ocean was my God 19 years before when I got sober, and she didn't know that I had turned into an eagle during that breathwork journey. And it's been Ocean Eagle ever since.
That's amazing. And how
she brought me up on stage.
But you were just saying about how you were taken to the ocean. And, you know, are you greater than, you know, are you more powerful than the ocean? So that's amazing. So that name, where did it come from, though? But besides her, you know, did she explain, like, how she
It just came to her while she was moving energy on me during that breathwork journey. This is Ocean Eagle. And then she presented it to me. And then she asked me what I would thought about having a ceremony the next morning in front of all the people at the event, plus all of Don Miguel Ruiz, and to actually give me my spirit name. And so I had 225 people while I'm on stage chant, welcome Ocean Eagle, welcome Ocean Eagle, welcome Ocean Eagle. And I turned and I presented myself with a microphone as Ocean Eagle, and I've owned it ever since. All my books I've written are under Ocean Eagle. Anybody that knows me, the people that know me from the first 50 years of my life, they know me as Marty Daniel. None of them know me as Ocean, you know. But everybody since then, they all know me as Ocean Eagle. They all come from Ocean. So it's just, you know, it's just an embodiment. It's not something weird or crazy. And I've had people say, well, I didn't want to come to your retreat because your name was stupid. And I just don't care. That's the other thing that comes with your spiritual awakening. I just don't care what anybody thinks about me anymore. I look in the mirror and I validate myself.
Yeah.
I don't need anybody to validate me.
You know it.
I know it. Because I'm a good human being and I don't have any secrets. And we're only as sick as our secrets.
Yeah, interesting. My uncle that brought us here to the United States, he gave me a book when I was in middle school. And, you know, he wrote inside of the book. And I looked at it about a year ago. And
what was the book? Do you remember?
Yeah, it's How to Win Friends and Influence People. And in the book, it says if you want to fly, if you want to fly high like the eagles, you know, you have to be with the eagles. And then he wrote Eagles Flight. So I kind of made out my own kind of like idea of what that meant. Like, you know, like if you want to be at the top, you got to go fly with the guys that are on top, like what circle you're in.
Yeah.
And then he wrote Eagles Flight. So every single time I hear like the word eagle. I always think about that.
Do you know?
Yeah.
Do you know how eagles mate?
No.
So the male and the female fly to the highest point that they can fly to, and they lock talons, and then they make love in a spinning free fall.
I've seen that.
They make love in a spinning free fall, and before they hit Earth, they break apart.
Now you're messing with my head. now I'm going to start thinking about that a little bit differently. That's interesting. Yeah, now you got my mind going on that.
Yeah. So, but that's how the name, came to me, and I immediately just embodied it, and I've got the paperwork to legally change it, but I haven't done it
what
yet.
did it experience? Like, definitely, you've experienced a lot and have been able to learn a lot through these different processes.
Yeah.
But today, you're an individual that's healing people, right?
Well, people say that, but I'm literally a guide. They heal themselves.
Right. Well, even
But yeah,
even your regular doctors.
I'm a healing guide. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Even like your regular doctors. You come into Liquid Vita, we don't necessarily we teach you how to heal yourself.
Right. Yeah,
We're
yeah.
going to give you guidance and create a
That's it.
regimen.
Yeah.
Same thing. But the level that you're at now, it's completely different from where you started.
Yeah, I just started doing 1 and 2 people. I went and trained in breath work, holotropic breath work for 2 weeks, about 7 months after my awakening. And then I just made my own. I just knew it had to be different. It had to be deeper, and it had to be, because I don't do it online because I move so much physical energy on people's bodies through their feet and their sacral and their solar plex and their heart. And I'll put people in back bends, and I'll get behind them, or if they're bent over, I'll get all the way on their back and be breathing with them. So it's an alchemical process that I don't know how to even bring it online, actually.
How powerful is breath work?
To me, I've watched it heal people's erectile dysfunction, high blood pressure medicine being thrown away, plantar fasciitis going away in one breathwork journey. Everything, and my good friend Dr. Nathan Bryan's the founder of Newman Nitric Oxide, everything is about blood flow. Everything's about expanding our blood vessels. So for me, breathing the way there's a couple of ways I breathe. I don't make it hard work. It's I could have you do that 10 times right now, and you would get lightheaded and you would get tingling down in your fingers. That is because you're sending medicine to your body when you do that. And then when we learn how to self-regulate through the slower breaths, when we just pull it from all the way from the belly and we release the serpent up the 33 vertebrae, right? The Kundalini energy. When we learn how to master that energy, we become I don't sit around in self-pleasure anymore because I just sit and breathe now. I literally.
Let's run everybody through a quick little breathwork session. How long is it going to take?
We'll just do 20 power breaths.
I want to do it with you.
You're gonna do 20 of them?
Yeah. You tell me what to do.
You're gonna breathe through your nose.
Okay.
And all the way to your belly.
In through my nose and out my mouth?
Yeah, so if you put your hand on your lower belly or your sacral, try to push that, just do feel that. So this is gonna be now we're gonna speed it up.
Okay.
All right, and we're gonna go circular, and you're gonna feel it. Okay.
Let's
so on my mark, ready? 1, 2, 3. Deeper. Make a noise. Loud. Okay. How's your face feel?
Numb.
My face is numb, my face is tingly, my arms are tingly, and my ears are ringing. So we just built serotonin, dopamine.
You feel it. It's almost
nose, mouth, balances the CO2 and the O2. We create a moment of homeostasis, and we just built a ton of nitric oxide. We do that for an hour and 15 minutes to an hour and a half in my breathwork journeys, by the way.
Whoa, hold on. You do that on and off, obviously.
I've had people actually able to do it the whole time.
Wow.
About 5. But we do, and then I'm there to encourage you because I build playlists. I have about 115 playlists. And the sound and the music is super important. It's very loud, you're blindfolded, and I'm there in support as the songs fade in and fade out, crossfade, to remind you to surrender again. How much? Because surrender to me is self-love. So what did you come here for? Did you come here to bail and not go through this whole process? Because I take people through a deep, powerful alchemical process during the 5 days, and the 4 days, 5 nights we're together. And it's a whole alchemical process I'm doing. I don't even tell them really what's going on. But when you can surrender over and over, surrender is self-love. So how much do you love yourself? Can you breathe deeper? And when we breathe deeper and long enough, then we can start decalcifying the pineal gland, and we can start opening and accessing the pituitary and the hypothalamus that drips DMT. So the DMT that's in ayahuasca, we build it naturally. And so that's where the third eye gets opened up, and people take all kinds of, journeys out in the spirit world. Their guides come natural, right? It's not something that something on the outside created. It's something that your body on a cellular level is showing you, this is what needs to be healed. You thought you came here to work on this. I'm going to show you what you're here to work on.
Right.
You're here to work on, you were raped when you were 7 and you don't have a memory, and here it comes. Oh my God, I was raped. All this stuff. I had a 56-year-old veteran that had 32 surgeries from IED blow him apart at 56 during a men's retreat, full memory of being raped and molested when he was 7 years old. And a lot of our military veterans, people in the military currently, come from very disturbing childhoods.
Right.
And that's one of the reasons they go into the military sometimes, because, they feel forced into it, or feel like it's a way that they can deal with, get themselves in line. They need some guidance.
Where do you typically do your retreats?
Sedona.
Sedona.
Yeah, I've done probably 24 retreats in the last 3.5 years in Sedona, Arizona.
Oh, wow.
So I do men-only retreats and women-only retreats. And now I'm getting ready to open up to veteran-only retreats.
That's amazing.
So I want to...
When's the next one?
The next veterans?
The next retreat.
The next... well, I've got a facilitator training coming up January 26th through February 4th. 10 days.
Oh, that's right around the corner.
10 days facilitator training. It's really intense. I just did one in Kauai in October. I did another one at the pyramids of Teotihuacan in Mexico City back in March. Okay. And I train them. I get them ready to do what I do. And right after that, in February 14th through February 7th, I've got my women's retreat. And it's so powerful for women to heal in front of a man. It's rare. Women think they need to heal only with women. But when a man can hold that sacred, safe space, it gives them hope that there's other men out there, that they can, it's okay to let go of some of that heavy masculine energy that they're carrying to protect themselves, and start really stepping into their true divine power, their divine feminine power, because the divine feminine energy is what's going to bring us out of this hellhole that this patriarchal system put us in. We need the women to come back into their full power, and we need to stand next to them as their helpmates. We need to protect them, because we've got a bunch of women out there riding horseback, circling the men and the kids in the middle, when we got to get it back to the right order and balance. It's like, let's let the men with the muscles that God gave us be the protectors that we're supposed to be. Yeah. And let's get these women back in power positions to help us. And that's why I liked actually what Trump's doing with a bunch of the women. He's putting in some powerful positions.
Yeah, I've noticed that. Now that you brought that up, it kind of gears my conversation to where I want to go.
Yeah, but I do want to say the Veterans Retreat is going to happen at the end of February, early March.
Oh, that's going to be...
It's coming up, okay. We'll talk about maybe gathering funding for that, because I want the veterans to pay zero, nothing, not even their travel expenses.
That's going to be amazing. Yeah. And guys, everybody that's tuning into the podcast, you guys know how pro-military first responder I am, obviously being a former first responder myself, my brother being a veteran going off to Iraq, fighting in the war there, ground troops, so for me, that's extremely important. So I'm here to support those efforts for sure.
Thanks.
And I know a lot of people would support that as well too, that are listening to the podcast. But with the election that just happened and Trump going into office, there's a big movement called Make America Healthy Again.
Yeah, RFK Jr., yeah.
Right.
I met him last summer and the summer before last and shook his hand, and that's a good man.
What are some of the things you want to see with your expertise as an expert doing what you do with making America healthy?
Well, I love that they're talking about, tearing apart the FDA, tearing apart the USDA. And they're all crap. A lot of the organic stuff you see out in the grocery stores is not really organic.
Right.
stuff that's certified organic out of China. They just let some China, farmer have some Chinese company certified that's owned by, the Chinese government, and they stamp it organic and send it over into Whole Foods. And you think you're eating organic stuff and you're not. So for me, I want to get control over the chemicals that we put in our food here. I would be a huge fan of just shutting down all fast food chains. I know people aren't going to like to hear that.
Honestly, I think the fast food chains are the first ones that got to tighten up.
First ones they got to tighten up or just go.
Imagine if McDonald's, which if you go to other countries and you see the ingredients that McDonald's make their food out of, completely different than ours.
So I just came from Dubai. Saudi Arabia will not, the sheikhs over there, they will not put up with crap like that.
Right.
They won't put up with it. They have very strict rules. I mean, you go over there, you go into their shops and you see where they're selling cigarettes. There's a big label on half of the box. This is going to kill you. They put it on there.
And I tell you, I looked at the people that Trump nominated into some of these roles. The head of the FDA, head Human Services, the RFK Jr. heading that. The head of the CDC that he appointed as well too.
Yeah,
all of these people are like functional medicine doctors.
There is a reckoning coming right now.
This is the change in the course of medicine that we've been
What we're undoing is what happened in the 1920s and 30s when the Rockefellers took over the AMA, the American Medical Association. They found petroleum, they found the chemicals, they found it got people sick, found a chemical plant in Germany, turned it into a pharmaceutical plant, and then took over the AMA and then discredited every holistic and homeopathic doctor on the planet.
Yeah.
And we all, those of us that are in the know, we know they did that. And we know that it's been Big Brother and Big Pharmacy. It's like the Mars family. They own every candy bar out there. And they also are owned by Big Pharmacy, So it's
a big cycle that just keeps everything feeding.
Well, don't you? I love the grocery stores now. You go to and I don't shop in grocery stores because if you look at what's on the package, the way the dark energy on the planet works is they have to show you their plan, show you, and then you give consent, and then it gives it power. Mm-hmm. So the easiest way to do that is to go to a grocery store, look on the ingredients, look at the 15 chemicals in there, and just buy it anyway and eat it. They're telling you, they're showing you in the ingredients list what the poison is.
Right.
And then in the next aisle over is a pharmacy that's going to give you the treatment, not the cure, for what the food just caused.
Right.
And then right out in front of that is a Starbucks. That's a sugar shack that's just feeding your cancer and your diabetes.
Yeah, scary, man.
It is.
I think there's a huge shift that's going to happen. I'm excited about it. I want to see how all of us that are in the industry can participate and make this change that's much needed.
Make America great again. I don't know what's wrong with that phrase. Make America healthy again. What's wrong with that phrase?
Right.
I'm all about it.
100%.
I'm all about people. And like me, I've never done a plant medicine. I don't do ayahuasca. I don't do San Pedro. Don't do psilocybin, any of that stuff. I understand that has maybe been a trigger point and helped some people. That's not the medicine that I do. I do it naturally through the breath only. People sign waivers and agreements with me, to be 100% sober of anything during my retreats. We're going to be clean. I'm going to detox you with clean food during the retreats because I provide everything. We also go to the Sedona Wolf Sanctuary. So we spend time with wolves.
Wow.
We do a Native American sweat lodge.
Nice.
We go up on the mountain and I blindfold people and I have them slow breathe as I verbally rebirth them as I drum and rattle and take them through a whole rebirthing process. So
you work closely with the Native Americans?
No, I just I'm a little bit of everything. I don't attach to. I don't understand these people that go work with the Lakota for a month and then come back and say the Lakota. It's like someone calling themselves a shaman that, went to a spiritual retreat and starts doing shamanic stuff. The word shaman came out of Siberia. And a shaman wasn't a name somebody gave themselves. It was something earned over 30, 40 years of being a medicine man or a medicine woman to the community.
Wow.
So this word that's just being thrown around all the time for me, I think there's maybe only 4 or 5 real authentic shamans on the planet. I would seek them.
Interesting. Cool, man. You got a lot of great things and helping a lot of people, guiding them through the right course.
I'm trying.
So listen, if people want to find some of your books,
Yeah.
how can they get access to
Go to
learn more about you?
You can go to oceaneagle.org. I've got a really good web guy that's just been doing amazing work there. You can also go to I am Ocean Eagle on Instagram, and on my link tree is in my bio. My link tree is a one-stop shop.
We're going to share everything on the
My
podcast,
link tree's
so.
on there. If you go to, in Facebook, I'm under Marty Ocean Eagle Daniel. They make me use my legal name because I haven't switched it. But you can find me on the social media platforms. Not real big on YouTube right now. I have a YouTube channel. I haven't pushed a lot there. I don't have a PR guy, as we discussed, or a PR woman or a PR team.
Right.
So I'm kind of a one-man show, but I'm ready to, launch all of that and release it and everybody. But the books are all on Amazon. I've got a book that I co-wrote, 2 books that I co-wrote with Kevin Harrington from the Shark Tank.
Oh yeah, he's in my book actually.
Is he?
Yeah, he's got a chapter in my book.
Yeah. He's I got in really close with them. I was on his television show. So get down to business with Kevin Harrington on Fox Business.
Nice.
And I got in tight with them for a while. But ultimately, the money I spent, the time I spent with them was for a reason.
Right.
And it was time to just continue to step into the fullness of who I am. And I've had a lot of great aha moments and a great, being on the CBS morning show. You can find that on my link tree. It's about an 11-minute segment with Lisa Ling. And I actually had Lisa and friends of hers come to a 5-day women's retreat. It was so profound for her.
Nice. Awesome.
So, there's all these authority pieces behind me and these testimonials. But I want to just briefly touch on the cancer work that I've done.
Oh, yeah. Let's talk about that.
So I've had people I had a woman with stage 4 lung cancer come to me that her lung cancer's gone. And it was all through breath work. And she went through a 4-day women's retreat. And she called me 2 days before the women's retreat. Can you heal my cancer? I saw you on a podcast on Rumble. I'm like, I can't heal your cancer. But if you come, I'll show you how you can. She comes in and she comes to the door with 11 other women. And she comes in with hooked up to an oxygen tank. I'm like, oh, crap. What am I going to do with this woman? That woman breathed through every breathwork journey without an oxygen tank, spitting up blood, spitting up crap out of her lungs, every one of them. She went to the wolf sanctuary without it, the sweat lodge without it, hiked without it. And here she is, oxygen tank free. And her lung cancer is all gone, stage 4 lung cancer. And her right lung was partially deflated and it got reinflated. Had another woman come in with, she was on chemotherapy for leukemia, childhood leukemia that was in remission, but she was on chemo. And that chemo created a pulmonary aneurysm that completely collapsed her right lung. What am I doing thinking about coming to your women's retreat? It's a breathwork thing, so you're going to heal yourself. She comes, she does 8 breathwork journeys, calls me a month later, sends me a message and says, hey, Ocean, you're not going to believe this. I'm like, yeah, I will. Tell me. My cardiovascular surgeon at the Mayo Clinic just called, and my latest scan shows that the pulmonary aneurysm's gone and that they've never seen one disappear.
Wow.
And that they don't have to remove my lung now and that I don't have to go see them for another year. And I'm like, so I got story after story, and another one, a guy with a trach, RJ, thyroid cancer that had been diagnosed 3 years before. His wife is a holistic homeopathic doctor. She found him dead 8 months before seeing the CBS show, and she found him dead. And she pounded on his chest, brought him back to life. They stuck an emergency trach in him. One of his lymph nodes had gotten so big that with cancer that it had pushed on his esophagus and asphyxiated him. So they come and do a private with me, just me and RJ and Charis, his wife. We did 9 breathwork journeys in 72 hours. And I just got the reports all given to me. But they went, he was doing in vita therapy down in Scottsdale.
Okay.
They drew blood right after, and his count went down 3,000 points. And fast forward, a month later, they did a scan. All the cancer in the right thyroid was gone.
Wow.
And they told him the trach was for life when they put it in. Well, just August, they took it out. So he has no trach anymore. Went back to work as a teacher. So, it was a combination of continuing with his chemo pills and breathing and the breathwork protocols that I put him on. So we can heal ourselves,
Right.
And a lot of people come to me, and I do privates as well. I've done like 4 privates.
You know, and the one thing I'll highlight is,
Yeah.
you know, it's not always just one thing, right? It's
Right.
a combination of things to create the true healing that your body needs.
Yep.
And I know, like in our line of work with the high dose of vitamin C IVs and things, we deal with
Do you do
a lot
ozone too?
we do
yeah,
ozone
right.
and all of these types of treatments where we're dealing with patients with autoimmune issues, we're dealing with patients with cancer.
Yep.
And for a long time, the medical community, the allopathic world, was much against it.
Right.
And recently, with the high dose vitamin C, a study was just published. It just came out that patients with pancreatic cancer that were getting high dose vitamin C, 70 grams, 2 to 3 times a week, that their life was able to be extended twice as much, and the chemotherapy worked better. You know? And you can find this online. It was recently all over the news just a couple of days ago.
I think if you coupled it with breath work, the way I do it, I think it would blow the doors off.
That's what I'm saying. It's like,
Yeah.
You might fall into this trap of traditional medicine, and I'm never going to advise against it, right? You know, because number one, I'm not a doctor, so I'm not going to advise against it. But there are things that are going to make those type of treatments work better,
Agreed.
and more effectively, and allow your body to detox a lot of these chemicals they're injecting into your body to get rid of, you know, this cancer. So,
Well, imagine, the 5G towers are destroying mitochondria. So it's a 60 gigahertz frequency that goes out. So it destroys mitochondria. Mitochondria doesn't deliver the oxygen, right? Creates blood clots, and that's what the doctors were all saying back when the C thing happened, They're all saying this, why are we intubating these people? Why are we putting them on vents?
Right.
They're not having trouble breathing. It's a lack of oxygen in the blood problem. It's like altitude sickness. So what we have to do is we have to get the blood moving. We have to get the oxygen moving. We have to get the vitamin C delivered where it needs to go properly. And we can do all of that. That's why I'm a big fan of nitric oxide. Nathan Bryan has the pneumonitric oxide that helps
the human,
people.
is that the Neo 40? Or which product is that?
He's got the pneumonitric oxide and NO beats.
Okay.
That's a lozenge that you take that help create those people that don't build enough nitric oxide or that can't. I took those while I was hiking with him over 10,000 feet in Peru, and it definitely helped. It definitely helped me. But I know how to do. I know how to show people do it naturally through the breath. You just did it. You could feel it.
Oh, I felt it.
So imagine
That's
that
for
little
sure.
session going on for over an hour and 15 minutes. It's
Absolutely.
transformative. And then you do that 6, 7, 8, 9 times in a very short period. That's where the medicine is. And that's why I want to get blood work done. I want to get blood draws done before a retreat and blood draws after. I want
Then
to do
you
that
actually
with
have
the
the
vets.
data to
I want,
show.
and I know it's there. I already know it's there. Yeah, I've got data now. I just sent it to some people yesterday, and they're going to analyze it and see. There's a guy with very deep pockets doing private cancer research, so we'll see how all that ties in. But the trauma release too, the PTSD with veterans, that is something that I'm pushing more towards my work, is because our veterans need our help. They want off of these pills, and they don't want anybody to give them something to numb their pain. They actually need to move through it. They need to reveal it, refeel it, reheal it, and then we give them tools to realize, recognize, and have a reckoning with it.
I love that, man.
Yeah.
I love that. Ocean Eagle, if there's one thing, someone who's listening into our podcast and they've connected with your message, if there's one thing that you can leave that person with, what is it?
Find more time to be quieter. Find more, because in the nothingness of the unknown stillness within is when your creator will talk to you. That's when your essence, your true purpose is going to be whispered to you. So take deep, long, slow breaths. Become a self-regulator. And when you feel fear and when you feel anxiety and you feel stress, take yourself out of whatever situation that is. Go sit by a tree, go sit by water, go sit in nature and let nature heal you. And we can heal ourselves.
That's amazing. Powerful ending right there. Brother, I appreciate you being here, spreading the word. Guys, make sure you follow him. Make sure you tap in, read more about it. This is something that I don't care who you are, what walk of life you live in. This is something that everybody needs.
And it's free.
and it's free. That's the best part about it. And it's free, guys.
And it's free.
So thank you, brother. for
Thank
coming
you.
on the
Such an
podcast.
honor. Yeah.
Guys, make sure you share, like, subscribe, follow, do all the great stuff. Leave your comments. Share this with your friends. All right. Until the next one, we'll see you.